Yay, we're live. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Feelings with the Geekiary. This is a sort of special webcast because we're going to talk about the summer of gay. That's all the queer media that came out this summer. Fareed and I, if you saw our Pride webcast in June, talked about some of the stuff that was coming out, and now most of the stuff has come out, so now we can actually talk about it. Yay. I'm Jamie, along with Fareed and Angie on her first appearance with us. Yay. Briefly.
Yes.
We're fans, we have feelings, and this is where we webcast about them.
Reminder, you can join the conversation with the hashtag Geekiary Feelings. Come on, how will we know we're wrong? We're not. If you don't tell us.
We're never wrong.
We're never wrong. Yeah, this time. We would like to remind all of you that the views expressed in the webcast are those of the hosts as individuals and do not necessarily represent the Geekiary as a whole. Keep that in mind.
Also, we apologize for any swears. I have difficulty reining that in. But, so some housekeeping stuff. Don't forget about our Patreon. Yeah. And make sure you check out the rest of our YouTube channel, which, as you probably don't know by now, is like 95% free.
It's literally just me.
That's fine. That's fine. And don't forget to check out our news section for the biggest news that's coming out, or at least the stuff that we care about. For example, Our Flag Means Death Season 2 comes out October 5th. Yay!
Woohoo! Yar!
And the trailer dropped, and so like Angie wrote about it. So go and read that and watch the trailer and get
Lots
excited.
of pirate jokes.
Very good pirate jokes. Yes, I was very impressed. And I don't think there was a whole lot else.
It's slow because of the strikes and stuff. It's just
That's
slow.
true.
Like,
Although that does remind me, Tianguan Sifu Season 2 finally coming out in October, I think. Actually, I don't remember the exact date, but it's coming to Crunchyroll because it was on Funimation, and then Funimation merged with Crunchyroll, so now it's on Crunchyroll.
Like it's so slow right now. The certain news outlets, like the websites that cover news a lot, we cover news, but we don't cover it like 24/7, right?
Yeah.
Certain news outlets have started releasing more clickbaity titles, and they're really like repurposing old news as new news, and I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah, I definitely see things on Twitter that I'm like, this is like 2 years old.
And a whole lot of rumors now, because again, nothing official's coming out, so it's just rumor after rumor after rumor.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we heard. I'm like, you didn't hear nothing. You made this up yourself.
Like, we heard from somebody sitting beside us that was just making it up. Okay, so I think that's it for news. So we can just hop into the discussion, which, as I said before, is the summer of gay. Yay.
Yay.
I always have my flag. So there was a lot of queer media that released over the summer. I think we reviewed most of the stuff that we were excited about, but I know that I was like, I went into our Discord and I was like, I still have thoughts. So does anybody want a webcast? So that's why we're here. So let's start with television. For example, Good Omens.
Woohoo!
Good Omens Season 2. Angie reviewed that for us.
Yes.
So that ending was like the best and the worst simultaneously.
Yes. I've been seeing a lot of the fans trying to act like it was a bad ending. I'm like, no, it was a great ending. It just was not happy.
Yeah. It's an amazing ending, but like, because like, I mean, I'm sure most of us, I follow Neil on Tumblr and he talks a lot about, you know, the process and all that kind of stuff. And so like season 1 was obviously based on the book. And then season 3 is based on the like hypothetical sequel that he and Terry Pratchett had plotted out previously, and season 2 is meant to connect them. So this is a bridge season. That's why it ends the way it does, because the big thing happens in season 3. If we get a season 3, which we better, so stream the crap out of it.
Well, my wife called it the Empire Strikes Back of the Good Omens world.
That's a good one.
Ends on a not so happy note with a cliffhanger.
Yep. And a big damn kiss, because
season 1.5.
Yes.
I have to say, I didn't watch the entire season. I just went into the finale, watched the kiss, and I was like, oh, that's why the fandom is going crazy. But yeah, that kiss, I was like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Because he kissed him in order to, like, in my opinion, in order to emotionally manipulate him in a way. And you could tell that, no, that was wrong.
Well, I think that was more like he thought that was his only shot. Like that was how I read that.
Kind of like not manipulate in a bad sense. Manipulate in a way like, hey, I love you, stay with me, don't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did feel like a last ditch effort of you know, please, I know you're wanting to go, but this is what I
I'm
feel.
giving you what you wanted, right? I'm giving you what you wanted, so now you have to
Exactly.
listen to me. I'm like, no, that was bad.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of like I've read so many meta posts about people like trying to like explain like Aziraphale's like act like what he's thinking and everything, and I'm just like, we're never really gonna know. But I know that it was like because there's the whole thing about how it's like, oh, like he only likes Crowley if he's like an angel, and it was like, no, I think he's remembering how happy Crowley was as an angel, and basically being like, we can have that again. Because that scene where he like creates the universe and then he's just like bummed that he's like, what? No, you can't, like, it's 6,000 years is nothing. Like, that's an excellent point. Why would you create faraway galaxies if the humans are never going to be able to see them? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's no news about the season 3, right?
Not yet.
No, but Neil wouldn't be able to announce anything until the writer's strike was over anyway.
Yeah.
But what we do know, it hasn't been canceled. That's it.
No. Like, it's still pending. So, stream the. I was like, I have a friend that's watched it like 8 times already. So.
And of course, that's not the only queer rep in the show. Is that's which is one of the reasons I really liked it. We have the lesbian coffee shop / record store owners. And then we have the non-binary person who shows up at the ball, who's the spouse of one of the other business owners. And I mean, I think Neil did a great job of Neil and John Finnemore. I should credit John Finnemore as well. Did a great job of making sure that there was a diverse amount of people, both physically as well as LGBTQ.
Oh yeah, like it's not queer, but there's an angel in a wheelchair, which a lot of people appreciated. That's good disability rep, because it's a big thing that, I mean, I don't think it's not actual Christian doctrine, because of course angels are separate beings. Humans do not become angels when they die, even though that's not how a lot of Christians talk. But the whole concept is that it was like, oh, when you die and you go to heaven, like everything is fixed and like blah blah blah, and it's like, oh, people aren't broken because they're in a wheelchair. So the fact that you still have the wheelchair in heaven is,
Yep. But yeah, it was a fun show, a good, happy, sad ending, and hopefully we get a season number 3. Hopefully.
Knock on wood.
I actually really liked the difference that in their relationship. Like, obviously, because it was like they were a lot like freer with the way, like, the touching, like the casual touches.
Yeah, season 2, yeah.
And I mean, they were sort of already married in season 1, but they're like even more married in season 2, because they're like bickering over the car, and like like Crowley makes that joke at the beginning because Nina's the coffee shop owner, right?
Right.
Nina. She's like, oh, are you a bookseller? And he goes, not at gunpoint. And then he actually like runs
ends
the
up
shop.
Exactly, the things he does for his person or his angel.
That's great. So, I'm trying to think what else. But like, I really liked it. It's a very good bridge season. It was definitely the kind of like gut punch that it's like you feel seen.
Yeah, no, it definitely did what it was intended to do, and I have feelings about is I read a review of someone saying the minisodes didn't add anything. I was like, are you kidding me? Those minisodes were showing Aziraphale's continued conflicting what is good, what is evil, and there is no dichotomy. That
Yeah.
it's a big mix of gray.
That's kind of the whole point. Because the whole thing is that it was like, I mean, that was a big part of season 1 too. It was like there wasn't like good and evil. There was just like heaven and hell is like one entity, because like nobody cares about humanity. It's all about like the war.
Them versus us.
Yeah. And like it's one of those things where it was like, well, you go along with something because you think there's a purpose. And I think like Aziraphale was like slowly realizing that there wasn't, you know, it wasn't like, oh, like the demons were evil. It was like, no, because we found out that it was like, I mean, Crowley said in season 1 that it was like he was just asking questions, but it was like, but then you find out in season 2 what question he asked, and you're like, really? Like he got kicked out of heaven for that? So like, yeah. Well, I guess you don't find out exactly, but it's implied which question that he asked that he got kicked out for. So, but I was like, no, it's a really good like stance on morality and everything, and I think it's hilarious that there is a petition going around because it went like woke.
Oh,
and it was like it was woke in season 1.
I was gonna say
woke when the book came out. Like, did you read the book?
I remember that when season 1 came out, the whole people trying to get Netflix to cancel it was on Prime.
Yeah.
It was like, we obviously haven't watched this show. We want to cancel.
And I'm like, oh no, you're complaining that a show by Neil Gaiman is woke? Like,
what a shock.
People did that with Sandman too. It was like, did you read the comics? Like,
oh no, it's woke.
No, not woke.
Whoa, not woke.
Oh my god, gay people exist.
Oh no, woke.
Gotta do something about that.
Gay people woke up. They woke.
That means it's being shoved down your throats. Don't you know that?
Oh yeah.
And I'll be like, what's with you and wanting things shoved down your throat? Like, let's talk about that. Why do you think that everything is being shoved down your throat? What's that about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need to be heading out here in about 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, do you have anything? Because I know, like, you reviewed Good Omens. Do you have anything else you want to add about it?
No, just that I was, like I said, my main thing was I loved the minisodes. I loved the whole show. I actually think I liked it better than I liked the first season, because the first season had to live up to the book.
Yeah, that's
in my mind. And so when I watched the first season, I was very much trying not to compare it, but comparing it because you can't help it. Whereas this one was its own thing. And I feel the choice of having John Finnemore as the co-writer was perfect because he has that Terry Pratchett sense of humor. And as he said on his own Twitter, he's not a Terry Pratchett replacement, but he would never dream of such. But
okay, Fareed, anything?
Nothing. It's just watch it. It's a very niche show, so hopefully we get this third and final season. But let's see.
Well, he said that he'll turn it into like a book or something like that if Amazon for some strange reason doesn't.
But still, seeing it all in live action, I'm like,
yeah,
action, yeah.
Okay, so now we'll move on to Heartstopper. So Angie has to leave. If you want to, was there anything that you wanted to say real quick before you had to?
No, just I loved Heartstopper as well. I got into it late, the first season late. It is totally adorbs, as the kids call it. And I loved the second season. Took me a little bit to get through it, but was so pleased to see. I forget his name. The asexual character. Isaac, thank you. To see that plot line as someone who's demisexual myself, it was good to see someone being like, "This is not me. This is all this romance. Why is everybody doing this?"
Mirrors my high school experience as well. Sitting at the lunch table and everybody's talking about their boyfriends, and I'm like, okay, but did you see that thing on TV last night? Let's talk about that.
Exactly. So, well, have fun feeling out.
Bye.
Bye.
And then there were two.
And there were two.
as
Heartstopper.
usual. So I reviewed Heartstopper. If you read my review, it was very long because I had a lot of stuff to say about it. But then I published it, and then after I was like, wait, I didn't talk about this. So that was the impetus for
Your review was already long enough, Jamie.
Yes, it was one of those where I was like, oh my god, I can't.
It was long enough.
So yeah, I know. But yeah. So a couple of the things I wanted to talk about was, I really liked the focus on bi erasure, because like that's such a huge thing. Like even in the queer community, is that like, you know, the meme
that bisexuals don't exist. Like
Yeah.
they're like they don't exist. It's just
Yeah.
a quick stop. Yeah.
I mean, that's a joke, in the like. Well, I know Fareed knows that, but it was like if you're not aware of the joke, I mean, probably if you're watching this, you are. But the whole thing about how like you can't see bisexuals because they don't exist, and so when it's like Bi Visibility Day, it's like, oh, it's the one day that bisexuals can be seen,
Right.
But I really like that is such a big thing, and I mean, they had Nick like basically every time.
Mm-hmm.
They said like, oh yeah, me and Charlie are dating. Like Nick said that me and Charlie are dating. People were like, oh, I didn't know you were gay, and he's like, I'm bi. Actually, he said that he said that exact phrase like 6 times, and that was his Instagram caption when he came out on Instagram. So I was like, I appreciate that. That's a moment from the comic.
One moment where he was like, no, I'm bi. I kind of felt bad for Imogen, because in Imogen's mind, she was like, oh, Nick isn't with me because he's into guys. But then Nick was like, I'm bi actually. And Imogen was like, wow. Oh, and you're still with me?
Thanks for kicking me. I get it. I get both sides, because I was like, I would have absolutely like been like, oh yes, okay, it's not me. But it's like, oh no.
I would be like, oh, Imogen.
It is still me. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad for her, but I'm like, okay, she got over it quick.
Appreciating that. I also the way that it contrasted the way that Kit had to come out, because if you're unaware, like Kit Connor, who plays Nick, was essentially bullied into coming out by people who didn't think that he had the queer rep to play a bisexual character.
Kids, and I'm like, no. And they were literally kids who were saying, because there were certain pictures of him walking around with his girlfriend, and then those fans, they ended up were like, oh no, he's queer baiting and yada yada yada, and I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Okay. First of all, we have to clarify that queer baiting is a marketing term, and that refers to promoting a queer ship in promotional material and like interviews and stuff, and then not actually doing it on the show. Steric on Teen Wolf was queer baiting, because they used those guys for everything. They used Steric fans for everything, and then they did shit with it.
Remember the boat video? We're
on a ship. Like
they were like so close to each other, basically on top of each other.
Yeah, like Dylan's like sitting in Tyler's lap. Yeah, like
and still certain anti-Steric people say that Steric wasn't a thing, and I'm like, the boat video is literally there.
Jeff Davis said on Twitter that they're like, oh, we'll consider that. Like if enough people want it, like we'll consider it, and then deleted his Twitter like a coward.
And then gave us a Steric baby for some reason.
Yeah,
we did.
And the complicated feelings about the Jeep. We're not even going to go into that. But anyway, that's queer baiting. Somebody playing a queer character when you don't know if they themselves are queer is not queer baiting. That is an actor playing a role. And yes, it would be nice because I know the issue a lot of people have is that like for a lot of actors, coming out like almost kills their career. Like I don't think that's so much a thing anymore, but it definitely used to be, where it was like that's why. So people was like, oh, if you're gonna have the queer roles, then you should give them to queer actors.
And even if it doesn't kill their career, it kind of changes their trajectory, right?
Yeah, because you can only play certain kind of roles.
I don't think that an openly queer actor is ever gonna be considered to play James Bond. Yeah. It's not gonna happen. Or even play Superman. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
You'll still get other roles, but there are specific roles they won't even consider you for.
Exactly. Yeah. And like you get typecast a
Mhm.
lot too. That it was like, oh, like, yeah. Well, and the thing is, it was like, yes, it would be nice if there were more queer actors that got to play like queer roles, but at the same time, like, you don't know what people are doing.
And again, these are kids. Leave
Yeah.
kids alone. They
I was
aren't in
like,
their
no, Kit
30s or
Connor's like 19. Like, leave him
right?
alone.
They're kids. Even I didn't talk about like okay, and also
I didn't know until I was in my 30s. Like, sometimes
Right?
people just don't know.
I'm like, I go after adults. Like, if there's like this movie or a TV show where every actor appears to be straight, but the story is about queer people, then I go after them. I'm like, why not cast an openly queer actor for
Yeah.
for a certain role? You guys are adults, but these were kids. Leave kids alone.
Definitely.
And also, even if you do, even if you want openly queer actors to play queer roles, Joe Locke, he's openly queer. He's playing Charlie. Let that be.
Yeah.
That's it.
Or like Jack Wolf in Shadow and Bone. He's openly queer and he plays Wylan, who is gay. So
yeah, he's a kid. Let him be.
Oh no, Jack Wolf's like 28.
Oh, he looks
He looks 17. I know. I think I told you it was like when that first promo image came out. I was like, oh, because I'd never seen them side by side, and I was like, oh my god, no. And I had to Google their ages, and then I was like, oh okay, no, they're like 2 years apart. I'm like, that's fine. And they're both in their 20s. It's
like 20 years apart.
Yeah. Like,
but
sorry.
yeah, it was
not
bad.
to say that Kit Young looks old. He just looks his age, and Jack Wolf is stuff. Sorry, Jack. You're the new Thomas Brody Sangster, where you're just gonna look 15 the rest of your life. Sorry.
the
About
rest of your life. But yeah, it did kind. Or maybe it was intentional, right? Maybe it was intentional. Like,
I'm
kids
sure it was
coming out and Nick fighting by erasure. I think it was intentional.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, so the season 1 is based on the first 2 volumes, the first 2 collected volumes of the comic. But season 3, which is the same number of episodes, is only based on, season 2, because it's based on volume 3. So it's only based on 1 volume. So there was less canonical material to cover. So they had more room to like fan out. So they handled the way that Nick comes out a little differently. So
Yeah, you talked about tokenism.
Oh yeah, because that was another thing that I have. There's because Elle goes to the art school, or the open house for the art school, and she meets Naomi. I'm sorry, I was like, I'm not gonna remember her
She
name.
meets
Naomi.
God.
And it was like, well, Naomi and like other, it's very clear that most of the people that attend this school are queer, and but Naomi is trans, like Elle is trans, and Naomi has this whole piece about how like she wants to go to that school because she'll just be like Naomi, because in a regular public school she's the trans girl, whereas at a school like this she'll just be Naomi, and that's a big
girl. Yeah, just another student. Yeah.
And that's a big, I think that's it might not have been intentional, and it might have been a commentary about queer rep in other projects. Like if you have something like Heartstopper, where like a lot of the cast is queer, and like most of the characters are queer, that it's not as obvious because they can just be people. But if you have like, the token gay on the show, like they're pretty much like gay is their identity, and it's not. It's a part of who they are, but it's not who they are entirely. And I think shows are getting better about this, but it really depends. If you don't have gay people writing the stories, then it's going to feel inauthentic. So, but
I mean, even if you have queer people writing stories, we have Jeff Davis, we have Ryan Murphy.
That's true. Oh yeah, Jeff Davis.
Not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee. On the other hand, Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
Right? He knows how to write queer characters.
He absolutely does.
So yeah, it's not a guarantee, but it's still nice to have queer people be part of the group. Let's just say that. Be part of the creative process.
Because that's how we get the varied stories, which is something I talked about in my review, that like it's not, because season 1 really focused on like Charlie and Nick, and like Nick realizing that he's bisexual and the two of them getting together. But season 2 focuses like it has Nick and Charlie and like them like navigating a secret relationship and like deciding whether, you know, when to come out and all that kind of stuff. And like Nick actually having to come out and like the different reactions he gets whenever that happens. But it also has
What?
Tara and Darcy. I'm sorry. I'm like sitting here and I'm like, I can't remember names all of a sudden. Tara and Darcy.
Characters. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of characters.
There are a lot of characters. Like Tara and Darcy and everything that they go through, because they came out and, you know, they come out as officially as a couple in season 1, but then you find out that like Darcy's not out to her mom. And just like, and that whole thing, and Darcy's mom is terrible, new awful parent alert. There should be like bingo or something. But so they have a whole thing, and how like Darcy feels like that she can't be the kind of girlfriend that Tara deserves, not wants or needs, but deserves, which is, you know, personal hang up, which and I like the way that they handled that. And then you also have, of course, Isaac realizing that he's ace, which again appreciated, and I would have loved something like that when I was in high school, because I might have figured it myself out a lot sooner than my 30s. So but anyway, yes, very queer stories. And then I actually have heard some criticism about the Imogen moment at the end where she's watching Sahar play and she has like that like awestruck look on her face, because it's one of those things where it was like, well, you have a story like this, and it just seemed it, and there's criticism about this in BLs too, where it was like how like everybody's gay, and it's like, okay, but when you have a group of queer friends, they are all gay. That's kind of the point. Like, we don't hang out with straight people. But I think that it was that I actually think it made sense, because Imogen until then hadn't really hung out with queer people. Like Nick, but Nick didn't know that he was bi until, like, you know, and so now she's around it, she's exposed to it, and she's realizing that, like, I don't want to say that's an option because it's not a choice, but like maybe she's realizing I didn't think that way, you know, I didn't think I could be that way, but now that I'm meeting all, you know.
But still, I do understand certain people wanting straight rep. I'm like, being straight is a valid sexuality. I get it, but
does it need to be in everything?
But
we
still,
need to shove it down our throat.
But they're like, at least have an ally in the friend group. I guess that's what people want. That, okay, everyone's queer, but we still have one token straight person in there.
Oh my god, her scene in season 1 where she's like, I'm an ally, and they're like, thank you.
And also, if she ends up being bi, it would be like, you know, the entire timeline that first the person thinks that they're an ally, and then when they start hanging out around with other queer people, then they realize, oh, I wasn't just an ally, I'm actually queer.
Yeah, well, because it's one of those things where it was like, if you don't know anybody like that, you don't necessarily think that way. You know, especially, well, I guess I shouldn't say especially, I don't know, not being bi, but I imagine being bi is one of those things where it was like, oh, it's like, oh, I'm attracted to the opposite sex, I must be straight, and it's not really something you think about until like somebody
until you meet a Charlie.
Yeah, until somebody puts it in your head, you know. So and I have one last point, which is where I
wanted to talk about that. I was like, what's that about?
I don't have the exact quotes on hand, but I do have a couple of friends that won't watch or read Heartstopper because Alice Oseman has said some problematic things about yaoi, which is I actually don't know. Like, somebody retweeted it, but like ages ago, so I don't have it. Like,
I'm like, if it's been a while, she might have, like, Alice might have changed their opinion. Who knows?
I mean, I don't want to say it was like, oh, it was like 2 weeks ago, but I think it's relatively recently. Because it was basically this concept of like, oh, like Heartstopper's like pure and blah, because it's the idea that a lot of like yaoi sexualizes children, like,
it was
something like that. And I really, really wish I should have like dug to find the quotes before we did this, because now I don't want to spread something that's not true, but there's somebody, like one of my friends on Twitter whose opinions I very much trust is the one that like has shared this. And it's so Yeah, it's just like that because it's like because it's like BL. There's a lot of sex in BL, and but that like the way it's framed is it's very much seeming like like Western media is better, and no, you don't want to go down that road.
Yeah, it's not. No, it's
Like,
not.
no, didn't we? I was like, I had a whole freaking rant in our Pride webcast about the Thai BL genre, and like how I wish.
And also, Asian queer representation has been going on for a very long time compared to what the Western media has been doing.
Yeah.
When it comes to graphic novels and other stories and even anime, like the Western media is still trying to catch up.
Yes.
So no, Alice, no.
Yeah, but it's basically the idea that like one is better than the other. It's like that's not true. Like
And
somebody,
also, her thinking that Heartstopper is pure.
I don't know if that's the actual term that was used, but it was basically something that was like more chaste, like not chaste, but like they don't sexualize the teenagers.
It's pure because you're making it pure.
Yeah.
Because you don't want Charlie and Nick to do something that teenagers do at a very early age. You just don't want them to go through it.
Which, if you're reading the comics, at some point they do.
Right? They
like,
do.
If you're caught up with the comics.
Yeah, it's just you who's delaying that.
Yeah.
In order to be pure or whatever.
Yeah. And it was like I mean, I guess teenagers have sex. I wouldn't know. I think that's a thing, but but I actually have a friend of mine from high school. I'm gonna plug her thing. She's I don't exactly. She teaches sex education to adults, and she primarily focuses on people that grew up in like evangelist households, evangelical households, like and purity culture, and the idea that like sex is wrong and and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure she would have a lot to say on the subject. Her name is Erica Smith. You can go through my Twitter follows. I love Erica, so. But yeah, it's just it's like. I think we talked about this on the Pride podcast too, like purity culture and like how it's like affecting shipping way more than it used to. We're going in like a circle with, and it's just like, no, please just let us be. They're not brothers. It's fine.
But yeah, okay, Alice's comments. I'll search them up.
I really wish I'd bookmarked that because I feel bad that I'm just like paraphrasing what I saw and everything, and I was like, oh god, I should.
You're supposed to be journalists, Jamie. Do better.
Well, I'm not. The views on this webcast do not represent. I know I have the Geekiary on my thing, but
do better.
I thought of change. I actually was gonna change it to my name, and then I'm like, oh wait, should I? And then I didn't, and I should have because it's. So I'm an individual. I'm not representing the Geekiary.
You're representing the Geekiary as a whole right now. You're the Geekiary.
I'm sorry. That's not intentional. Anyway, I talked a lot about Heartstopper. What do you like?
I have to talk about the very low ratings for season 2. It was bad. It's bad. And I think Alice just I'm not really sure if Alice talked about an extended series, doing another season, or was Alice talking about doing another graphic novel? Like the final book has been split into 2 now.
Oh.
Something like that. So
the comic is still ongoing.
Yeah, so the final book in the comic, the final volume, it's now split into 2. Because Alice was like, I'm not able to give everyone the ending that I wanted in limited amount of pages, so I'm extending it. So I'm like, okay, so that means that the show might get extended too. But then with the current ratings, it's bad. I wouldn't be surprised if season number 3 is like the last season.
I mean, that's possible because I can sort of see them ending the show before Nick goes to university.
Right? Because in the graphic novels, they're adults now.
No, the current chapters are Nick and Elle and Tara looking at universities. So they're not graduated yet, but they're getting there. And I don't know how the process works in England, because in the United States, you pretty much know where you're going to school by like March of your senior year. But I don't know how it works in other countries. So.
But yeah, so season number 1, during its first week, it debuted at number 2 on the list, and it only got 6.1 million views, which is not good globally. Globally, I'm talking global.
Yeah.
That's not good. And then the next week, because usually when shows debut, they debut low, and then they go up because it's Netflix, right? More people binge watch it over the course of the week. But Heartstopper season number 2, during its second week, it fell even lower. It fell down to number 4 with only 4 million views, and yeah, by the third week, it was at number 10 with only 1.8 million views, and it's out of the top 10 in 3 weeks. So I
wonder how much of that is Netflix lying about their numbers, though.
Right?
Like, I don't trust Netflix, honestly. Like,
but still, why would they? So it would be lower, right? It could be lower. Why would they lie about not higher numbers? Why would they say that Heartstopper isn't getting high numbers? Right? So I'm not really sure what happened. What do you think?
I don't know. I
Why
mean,
didn't season number 2 like click with people?
maybe it was because there were so many storylines.
That's what I think.
I mean, I liked that just because I think it's important to show a variety of queer experiences. And I actually appreciate that it was like, it's kind of annoying when you have a show and like so much of the focus is on the 2 main characters, and it was like they have friends but they don't really do anything. I'm like, I don't like that. Like, I like seeing all the different stories. I like the fact that they all hang out together and like are kids, and you know, like that they all like go to Nick's house and watch movies. Like, I really love that. But I'm sure there are some people that were like, oh, I just was watching this for like Nick and Charlie, and they're not the focus. So, I mean, it could be something like that.
I think it's probably that.
Yeah.
They didn't like it. They didn't want to spend a lot of time with Dara or even Isaac, I guess, or something. Which, let's see if they try and pivot in season number 3 and focus more on Charlie and Nick.
Well, in the comics, like, there's actually like, because I'm so glad they brought this up in season 2, because then I can actually talk about it, because I wanted to talk about it for season 1, but anyway, Charlie's eating disorder is actually a big storyline that is coming up in the comics. So I think they will pivot back to just the focus on them, because that's such a huge thing that he goes through that I really don't feel like you can. I feel like, and that will change the tone. It was like, how are you going to have like happy stories with everybody else? And like, I mean, you should, I don't want to watch a depressing show, but it's like something like that going on is just like so big that I think they have to put more focus into that. And also I think a big thing was because it was only 1 volume of the comic, that there was like, they had to pad out the episodes. Cause the whole, like the prom, not in the comics.
Oh, okay.
So like that whole thing, and like all the stuff with basically everybody. Like Tao and Elle end up dating in the comics, but like all the stuff with Tara and Darcy, that's expanded in the show, and Isaac's entire plot is expanded in the show. So it might be that too, that it was like, oh, we have more space to work with, so we're gonna pad out stuff. So if you're somebody that's a hardcore like purist about the source material, that might have bothered you too. But you should, I mean, I don't know. And the teachers, I love that they had
very, very low numbers. Very, very low numbers for a show that got a lot of hype during season number 2.
Yeah.
No one tuned in for the new season. I'm like, okay, it might end. Who knows?
Well, it might. I'm sort of hoping that it was like, once there's, I mean, we're not getting America. America isn't getting new shows coming out in fall because the writers and the actors are on strike. So there's still a chance for people to revisit it. later. I mean, I don't know if that will help because I know Netflix pretty much only cares about like the first 2 or 3 weeks, which is garbage because you're a streaming website. Not everybody has time to sit there the day a show comes out and watch the whole thing. I didn't. I had to go into the office, so I had to be at work. But it is disappointing. I mean, I do hope that it eventually, because like I didn't watch season 1 until it had been a couple of months, so I'm hoping there's a lot of people that are like maybe waiting, like, oh, we're going through other stuff now, and we'll get back to that. Like,
yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I just wanted to at least get one more season so that they can deal with Charlie.
Right?
Like, I feel like you can't bring up Charlie's eating disorder and then not deal with it.
Not deal with it. Yeah, right. I should. Let's see. Maybe season 3, maximum season 4. That's it. I would be okay with this show ending with season 4. I'll be okay with it. But let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. But yeah, I wanted to talk about Heartstopper's low viewerships. I'm like, that's surprising.
Kind of is. Like, oh, it's so interesting to me how like a show can do like really well and have like so much. Well, and also, I mean, obviously I see a lot of hype for it on Twitter because I follow people that watch it. But I was like, I don't know what the actual like outside of fandom circles what the hype was like. So I get a very skewed perspective on things because I stay in my little bubble. So
but yeah, your show, it's like Only Friends, which is you're reviewing it right now, right?
Yes,
and
I am.
I'm like, that's a whole lot of drama. I don't want to
It
watch.
is, which is hilarious because I'm normally like, I don't like that kind of stuff, but it's just one of these.
I'm like, what's happening?
Oh my god, no, it's great. It's so messy. I honestly think like, oh, you should, if you're not watching it, you should, because it is like, it's so messy and it's just gonna get worse. And I'm like, yes, give me the it's like it's anyway. But yeah, so Only Friends, because we had a very Western skewed list that we were going to talk about. So I put Only Friends on the list, which I am currently reviewing. That is a Thai BL drama that is currently airing. New episodes come out Saturdays. I'm super excited for tomorrow's. It's going to be good. So I mean, if you read my reviews, I have a lot to talk about on this show because my reviews go like very, very long. So there, I won't go into a whole lot, although I will say I saw a really good meta the other day that I'm going to try and incorporate into my review tomorrow because it's not something I noticed. But I saw somebody on Tumblr had pointed out that one of the characters, Top, which I had a friend that was like, Top, like really? And I'm like,
yeah, that's the name.
Top.
That's
Top.
it.
And yes, and he's gay. But that he dissociates during sex, which is not something that I noticed. But when they put up the screen grabs, I was like, oh, like he sort of just like blanks out and everything like that. And he's one of the slutty characters. Like he's known to be like a player and everything like that. And we're trying to figure out if it's because of his childhood trauma, because he has a whole thing where he has trouble sleeping because he almost slept through his house burning down when he was a kid. And so now he's like afraid to go to sleep. And so he can't sleep when he's alone. So the theory is that he's promiscuous and he has all these one night stands because he doesn't like sleeping alone.
Yeah.
But it's more like a perfunctory thing for him. Like he's not really into it, you know. He's just like that's the easiest way to be around people is to sleep with them and everything like that.
Yeah.
So that's a theory that I was like, I will go into tomorrow's episode with that in my head, to see how I look, because I will tell you as an ace watching this show is like, I'm like, because so there's a scene in last week's episode where Boston and Top have sex in a car, and I'm watching this scene, and I'm like, that doesn't look comfortable. Like all I could think about was like, that looks painful. And then I go onto the discussion threads and everybody's like, oh, that scene was so hot. And I'm like,
ew. Yeah. They're in the car and they're
I'm
tall.
like, what am I not getting out of it? It's like, because I actually had remarked that I was like, Boston's technique looks not pleasant because all of his sex scenes so far have been like this. I'm just like, that doesn't look fun. Like, I don't know. But that's just me. But anyway, I specifically wanted to talk about this, especially because we brought up the Alice Oseman comments, is that like this is, I mean, these are older characters, they're in college, so it's not like these are teenagers. Although, I mean, you have something. Well, I guess I was like, you have a show like Euphoria, but people criticize Euphoria for sexualizing the teenagers, so that's
Right.
really a good. But I think it's just like because it's just the variety of queer media that we need. Like like, yes, I do want more shows like Heartstopper, which are like cute and sweet and romantic and all that kind of stuff. But you also want to have shows like Only Friends, which is basically about like the messiest group of like interconnected people ever, and where like everybody's sleeping with everybody. Just because, like, why wouldn't you? Because you have those different kind of things about straight characters, so obviously, like, you should be able to have them about queer characters. And it shows the range of shows. Seriously? Sorry, we just got a comment on the live stream that is obviously...
What?
I don't even want to read it.
What happened? Cool.
I don't...
You know what? You know what? God bless you. God bless you, Gloria.
Okay.
It's just spam.
Anyway.
Wait. I guess it's spam. I hope so.
Unless, oh yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Oh well. You know what?
But okay. Anyway, but it also shows the range of the dramas that they're putting out on GMM TV, which is the network that produces most of these in Thailand. Because if you look at a show like Bad Buddy, which I wrecked earlier in the summer, which is like super tame comparatively, like those, I mean, they only really have like two.
I'm praying. I'm praying.
I don't believe in prayer, so anyway, they only have 2 kisses, and then like they sleep together, but it's like a fade to black kind of thing. And then you have something like Only Friends, which is like, yeah, there's like one sex scene in every episode. And anyway, so it's just like, it's a nice range.
These are public comments.
Can I disable comments?
She has a point. She's our only viewer right now.
But anyway.
Wait, yeah, Only Friends. I'm like, it's called Only Friends, and I'm like, you guys are more than friends. You guys aren't.
Well, no, that's the thing. So in the trailer, well, because I think you find out in this, in last week's episode, that Only Friends is actually the name of the hostel that they opened. I think, which is why the show is called that. No idea if it's supposed to be like a play on OnlyFans.
Maybe, yeah, that's possibly it.
But also the idea is that they're different kinds of friends. So there's boyfriends, there's friends with benefits, and then there's bed friends, which I actually had to look up because I'm like, what is the difference between bed friends and friends with benefits? And it actually gets explained on the show. Boston does it, of course he does, because he's the hoe. But the idea is like, bed friends is like a booty call. Like, you don't hang out normally, you're not really friends, you just get together and like hook up. And friends with benefits is like, you're friends, and occasionally you, Henry.
Yeah, you hang out and stuff. Yeah.
Which is hilarious because on the trailer they're showing obviously which couple is supposed to be which, and I'm like, I think they have two of them switched. That's just my opinion, but not my show. But I do have to say I now follow like the director, because his Twitter is fantastic. Like he posted a meme and he posted it, like he didn't retweet it, like this is him from him, a meme of Boston, who is the super problematic one, like he's basically a predator, and he used the Mean Girls thing with the burn book and the Regina George, where it was like, oh, like this is the skankiest loser hoe, you know, and all that kind of stuff with the picture of Boston. And I was like, that's from the director of the show. And I'm like,
he knows what he's doing. Yeah.
So great. I loved it so much. And also he mentioned today, I have been like kind of laughing at the intro, because like, so the intro of the show is like, they're all kind of just like sitting in like sexy poses, and it's just like camera pans and all that kind of stuff. And then like the director actually said either yesterday or today that that's an homage to Criminal, Fiona Apple's Criminal. And I'm like, oh, I'm liking it a little more now, because I like, it kind of makes me like a little like laugh a little bit. I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous, but anyway, I have one couple on the show that needs to make it, and then I don't care what happens to everybody else, because I know it's messy. Not everybody's going to end up together. Somebody may die. I don't know. I don't want anybody to die, just because I don't like people dying on shows. But somebody may die. But anyway, Ray and Sand need to end up together, and then I don't care. Everybody else can do what they want.
But yeah, it's so it's available on YouTube, right? And it comes out weekly.
Yes, on Saturdays.
Okay, right.
Yeah, 8:30 Thai time. So, yeah. But,
what are your views like on YouTube? Have you checked? Are people watching? Is it in the millions?
I'll check. I usually don't pay. I usually don't pay attention. I do know that there's one episode of Bad Buddy that hit 10 million views, because that's a big one. Let me go to my library.
Your BL library?
Well, I save the playlists to my library on YouTube so that it's easier. Episode 1 has like 2 million views. And I mean, I don't know how good that is for shows in Thailand. I mean, but for Thailand, like, I don't know how good that is.
But still, it's still global, right?
Yeah, but that's on YouTube, because it also airs on TV in Thailand.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
But, and I mean, the thing with a lot of these shows is like they only get one season. You don't need to worry about a second season.
They end the story in one season. Done and done. Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who, I actually hadn't even intended to watch this show weekly. I was going to wait till it was over and then binge it. So there might be a lot of people that are like that are just like, oh, I'll just wait till it's over and then watch it all in one shot. But I'm actually enjoying watching it weekly because I love reading the theories.
Now, why is Alice annoying us in the comments? Alice, we don't even know what we said about you. It was just, Jamie couldn't even code properly. It's either Alice, Jeff Davis, or Scott Gimple. They're on strike right now, so they're like
lots of free time.
But yeah, Angie mentioned What We Do in the Shadows, which is like, but Angie's not here.
Yeah,
so, but it's a good
and I
show.
don't watch it.
I haven't really watched it either.
I have heard good things. I saw the movie, but it's just one of those. There's so much TV to watch. I can't watch everything.
It's like dark comedy, supernatural. So it's a niche show. But hey, if any of you watches it, let us know what you think about it.
I reblog gift sets on Tumblr sometimes.
Yeah, I do. I know about it. I know the characters in it and everything, but I don't watch it. What We
Yep.
Do in the Shadows. Why did Angie mention it? Did a new season come out?
I think it just finished.
Yeah, the finale just aired.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Oh, lost Freed. Hi. I can talk more about Only Friends. You guys, well, because the next show on the list is Freed is watching and not me, so I don't know what to. There he is.
Yeah, I got kicked out.
Okay. I was just like, you disconnected, and I was just like, okay.
I because I named the Horseman of the
Jeff Davis is taking his revenge, kicking us out of our live
I'm so
stream.
happy that the movie. No one watched the movie because he had ideas for a sequel. No one watched it. No one wanted it in the first place. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, what we do in the shadow. So what I wanted to talk about was my adventures with Superman, which ended up having surprisingly unexpected queer rep. Now I get it, the Superman is straight, Lewis is straight, which you know what? I'm here for it. Again, as I said, being straight is a valid sexuality. Not every character has to be queer. You don't have to change Superman into a queer character. He's a straight alien. Let him
His
be.
son is gay.
Queer. Yeah, that's okay. Superman doesn't necessarily need to be queer. I'm okay with Superman remaining straight. Not everything has to be changed. So in the show, because of course they can't make Clark Kent queer or they can't make Lewis queer, I think Jimmy is straight too. So instead of having the leads be queer, they ended up sprinkling in a bit of queer representation via background characters and the people that Superman saves. So I think it was in episode number 3, he ended up saving two kids that belonged to a queer couple, two husbands. And then in one of the most recent episodes, episode number 8, he ended up rescuing a lost girl and he brought them back to her parents, and the parents were two women. And the fun thing is that these aren't one and done characters. So as the season progresses, you can actually see them doing their own stuff in the background and things.
Cool.
So yeah, in one of the episodes when a monster broke out of the ground, so we saw the two men having a kind of a date night in a park, and then we saw the two women just walking in the same park. Like like these are characters that you'll probably end up seeing more of as the show progresses. And I'm like, okay, that's good. They have their own lives and stuff, and they're still around. They're still alive.
Yay. That's a cool thing because I know like that's something I like about 911 is that there's been repeat people on 911 and 911 Lone Star, like, which makes sense because you figure a lot of like, I mean, we're sort of getting off topic, but it's like the idea that it was like police and like firehouses, they have like a district, so like you'd probably get repeat people, especially if they're like super unlucky. So
And
that's
like,
the thing with like Superman, like maybe he saves them again later. Like
maybe. So that was fun. I'm like, okay, that's nice. But yeah, we have queer rep in My Adventures with Superman because I remember when I upload these clips on YouTube and TikTok. So when I uploaded one of the clips, because he first saved the kids that belonged to the two husbands, right? And then there was a comment saying like, I don't see him rescuing straight people. I'm like, this entire show is about him being straight.
Yeah. Like his romance with Lois is like a big thing. Like
that's the entire show. What are you on about?
Also, he rescued the kids. You don't know what the kids are. They're kids.
I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, it was fun. It was just a nice surprise. But yeah,
Always
those were
appreciated.
yeah,
Unexpected queer rep is always a good thing.
now Nimona. For everyone watching this live stream, Jamie has not watched Nimona yet, which is bad. Jamie, you have failed this city. You have failed
I'm sorry.
You have
I've been
failed.
meaning to. It's on my list.
We just can't trust those sexuals. We just can't. We can't trust them. But yeah, watch it. It needs the views. I because the views weren't bad, but they weren't great either. So hopefully it gets nominated for an Oscar, and that encourages Netflix to give it a sequel. But here's to hoping.
I think the issue, I mean, I heard a lot about it, but again, that's because I follow a very specific group of people on social media. So I heard a lot about it. I saw it on Tumblr, like, and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, this is the problem with streaming, that it was like, I don't see it promoted really outside of that. So I think that's an issue. And, I mean, that's not my excuse for not watching it, but that could be an excuse for why it's not.
And you would think that it would be easier to promote stuff on streaming.
You would. I mean, honestly.
You would think, right?
Well, honestly, I think a big problem is because a lot of streaming sites, and this was the thing that got brought up when it happened, but it was like a lot of streaming sites, you can't screen grab anymore.
Yes.
You have to download like specific, because I used to just hit print screen, to get screen caps for reviews that I was writing and everything like that. And now I have to have like a special extension.
Yeah, it really makes no sense that why you should be able to screen grab stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I know that they did it because, like, you can pirate that way. It was like, well, yeah, but if somebody's going to sit there and do that to pirate something, they're going to pirate it anyway.
And again, it literally takes away the live tweeting aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and the memeability. That's how a lot of that's how a lot of things got promoted, was people on Tumblr putting like memes and stuff. Like, I mean, I've seen gift sets and everything, but like, it's just.
But yeah, it was a fun little child move for kids. It was fun. Nice animation. I think we reviewed. I talked about it. I think I did.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was like, because I edited it. So yes, you did.
Yeah, I talked about it. So yeah, I talked about it. I basically wrote analyzing the impressive queer representation in Nimona. It wasn't the best queer representation, but for what it was good. So hopefully we get a season number 2. Hopefully, let's see.
That's also a graphic novel.
Yeah, it's a graphic novel.
Yeah.
The graphic novel has ended, but the animated show and the animated movie closed in a way that a sequel is going to happen if they really wanted to.
Which they should.
They should. They really.
We need.
should.
I mean, we need more animation in general. I'm just saying that.
Yeah. Also,
pay your animators though.
Right. Okay. So Nimona didn't get a lot of views. Now talking about a movie that did get a lot of views.
Red, White, and Royal Blue. That's like still the #1 movie on Amazon Prime, I think.
I'm like, wow, it wasn't even that good.
I liked it. It didn't need to be good. It just needed to be entertaining, and it was. So I'm happy with that.
It wasn't even that good. I'm like both of these actors, they're acting as if they're in 2 different movies. Because the prince, he's acting as if he's somewhere in Bridgerton.
Well, that's kind of how he is, the character.
He shouldn't be. He's in 2023. Who even acts like that anymore?
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like the book goes a little more into, obviously, like I feel like the characters were a lot more surface because you can't go into the in-depth. You know, obviously you have more space in a book to like.
One of them did. I'm like, but yeah, the acting felt off, which I expected. I expected the acting wasn't gonna be great, and then the story was. You know what? As long as we got a happy ending, I was okay with it. I'm like, I hope that they don't end on a cliffhanger and to give us a sequel, but no, we got a proper ending, even if we don't get the sequel.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how the book ends. So I'm like, please just have it end how the book ends. Like,
But they are planning on a sequel. It did numbers. They've got
to. They've really got, like, you want to capitalize on that now. Of course, you won't be able to because your writers and your actors are on strike, but, you know, maybe if you paid them. Anyway,
but I reviewed Red, White, and Royal Blue. This is the one I was like, I just needed it to be like decent, and it was. I enjoyed it. I watched it like 4 times.
I watched it once.
So my thing is that I read the book, and as an adaptation, I don't think it's very good. But as a rom-com, like a generic rom-com, I think it did what it was supposed to do.
I was expecting a lot more skin in a way. They were like,
I was too.
It's R-rated. The book is steamy. And
I mentioned that in my review that I was like, I was kind of surprised at how like tame.
This is nothing.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like they definitely, well, because I mean, again, movie versus book. I feel like if they could have made the movie longer, because it was only like 2 hours. I think like 2 hours and 4 minutes, maybe something like that.
Nothing. Yeah.
I was like, you could have added there's so much, which is the thing. I mean, I talked a lot in my review about. I tried not to compare the book and the movie too much, but I did have a thing at the end where I'm like, here's the crap they cut out that I wish they hadn't cut out, and a big one was the whole the politics. There's way less politics because Alex wants to go into politics. That's his whole thing. They aged up the characters too, which is good because the actors are older. Like, Taylor is.
They look their age. Let's just
yeah. But that's why, because I was like, but they still had Alex obviously in classes, and I'm like, is he in grad school? They never really say.
He's
in the book he's 21, 20, he's in his senior year of college in the book.
Oh no, he looked older in the movies.
Well, no, he is but that was, I was like, they aged them up undeterminate, indeterminate.
Like they're not 30, but
they're not
old.
22. Yeah. I feel like they were probably 25 was probably what they were going for.
Taylor Zacher is, let's see.
One of them's 30 and one of them's 29.
Yeah, Taylor is 31. And then Nicholas is 28.
Close.
Which, they look 26, 27. That's it.
Yeah. Because I was like, because it's just they had one thing where Alex was in class, and I'm like, is he in grad school? They never really go into that. But it's a big thing because it was them being outed was opposition warfare in the presidential election. It was his mother's political opponent that outs them. And they were literally being followed and all this kind of the stuff. And so I was like, I had a big problem with making the gay Mexican reporter the bad guy.
I'm like, one of the things that I really don't like is that whenever there's a couple that's a non-white couple in a sense, one of them is white, the other is not, and then the villain also ends up being not white. I'm like,
well, and also that's a character, he's not in the book.
They made him up.
They made it. And I was like, also as somebody that works in news, I always have a problem with it. I was like, that is seriously unethical journalism right there. That guy should be fired. Really. He won't be because the way our cycle is now. But yeah, in the book, they're actually stalked. Their emails are hacked, and all that, and all this kind of stuff. And so it's a much bigger thing. In the book, obviously, because you're going to have to condense. Stuff is going to get cut out. But I was like, I don't know why they didn't still have that happen. Why even have why even introduce the concept of the opponent if you weren't going to do that? Because the election is basically just oh yeah, there's an election going on.
And you would know that the opposition would use this. They would use this, but they didn't.
They still could have been from the opposition, and they just used the journalist if you wanted to do that. Right? Because it's very clearly implied that he's the one that hacked Alex's thing. And it was why? Because he's bitter that Alex wouldn't sleep. That's just weird.
That makes no sense.
Also, if you go just by what Alex said, they never even slept together in the first place. He says they made out naked in a hot tub. That's not
right. I'm like, you didn't do nothing. It's not as if he ghosted you or something.
Anyway, that was a big issue that I had.
Left you at the altar or something. You were supposed to marry me.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
But I have a whole thing about changes. But anyway, so I was like, there's I did enjoy the movie. There were a lot of little things that I liked. And this is stuff that wasn't in the book. So there's one because it's like when they go to sing karaoke, and Henry is singing karaoke and he points at Alex and Alex like catches it. I just thought that was really cute. And the morning after they go to the museum, they like break into the museum at night. The next morning they're in bed and you can see that like they're spooning and Alex is like ripping Henry's wrist. That's because the last time they shared a bed, Henry left in the middle of the night. So like I appreciated that because the other times you see them sleep together, they're not spooning. They're like apart. Well, anyway, I was like, well, there was the one scene, but and then I really appreciated how often they showed Henry fiddling with his ring. Like you saw that was a nervous habit that he did, because then at the end he gives the ring to Alex, and then at the end they show that now Alex is the one that's fiddling with the ring when he's nervous. So I appreciated that. And then, so now I have my whole thing about some of the changes. And I'm just like relating to like the characters and everything and not the plot stuff that didn't make sense. For example, I didn't mention this in the in my review because I really didn't think about it until later. But so the whole scene where they meet the king, and of course in the book it's a queen. They wanted to distance themselves from Queen Elizabeth, so they made it a king, and then Queen Elizabeth died. So, but anyway, the whole scene, like that's what happens is that in the book it's the queen, but is basically just like, oh, we can say this was like, fake news and like make it go away. And in the book it makes sense, but in the movie, Alex has literally just given a press conference where he's confirmed the relationship, and that scene happens after that. So it doesn't make any narrative sense to keep that in there, but that happens in the book, so they kept it in there. But that's an example of plot stuff that doesn't make sense. But so there were some good changes and bad changes. One of the good changes is in the movie, Alex gives Henry the key that he wears around his neck. It's the key to the house that he grew up in. It's a big thing. He has a whole thing about like that ties him to his roots and all that kind of stuff. So Henry gives him his ring. Alex gives him the key. That's not in the book. So I really appreciated that moment because I feel like there were a lot of people that was like, he should have given him the key. Like that should have been a thing in the book. And the fact that he doesn't is like weird. Especially since the whole thing was because Alex was going to tell Henry that he loved him and Henry left. So it just feels like I don't know. Maybe it was supposed to be like, oh, Henry's making this like grand gesture. And it was like, okay, Alex can return the gesture. Like that's a thing that he can do. But he did in the movie. So I really appreciated that. That was a change. And when they're in the Victoria and Albert Museum, Henry does that whole speech about how when he was a kid, he wanted to go there and like he'd take the man that he loved and they dance among the statues and all that kind of stuff. In the book, Henry is the one that turns on the music and asks Alex to dance. And in the movie, it's Alex. And I appreciated that so much more. Like, I just felt that was way better narratively. To have like Henry's like talking, and Alex is literally like pulling up his Spotify and like putting a song on. And it's a different song too. They dance to a different song. And I really feel like you can't go wrong with Can't Help Falling in Love. I don't care how many versions of that song exist. I will listen to all of them. So that is something that I appreciated. And then of course the bad changes. The fact that they completely cut out Alex's sister. Like, just not there.
She doesn't exist.
No. Because somebody brought up is that it was like Alex's behavior basically throughout the movie doesn't make sense if he's an only child. He's the younger child. And like the whole thing is that like his older sister, her name is June. She's very much the like prim proper, like, oh, like we have to, because she's the oldest child and he's the younger sibling. So he's a little more reckless and all that kind of stuff. So because you have to feel like an only child that's been raised in a political environment is not going to act the way that he does.
No.
But that's how he is. So you can like, that's what his character's like. So you can't change the way the character is because then you're changing the story. So, but it really doesn't make sense without June. Also, Nora is bi. They never touch on that. Because there's actually she and Percy and like June have like a throuple thing going on. Sort of. I mean, they don't really go into it in the book because it's from Alex's point of view and it's very much focused on him and Henry and all that kind of stuff. But they actually don't have this at all. But there's a part in the book where they all go to LA. And it's like Nora and Alex and his sister and Percy and Henry's sister, who was a bigger part of the story in the book. And they all go to LA and Percy gets them like matching kimonos with like nicknames on the back and all this kind of stuff. And they basically like all get like drunk and like end up in a hotel and all that kind of stuff. And it's basically like the next morning, Alex sees Nora and June and Percy all come out of the same room. And so it's implied that something happened, you know. So that was the thing. I mean, obviously, like you have to cut some of this stuff out with the movie.
Sequel.
Yeah. Also, there weren't enough emails. The emails were such a huge part of the story, and that was such a minuscule part of the movie. And their emails were so good in the book. There's like epic quotes that people like bring out on gift sets and crap on Tumblr, like that just aren't in there. But the big thing that bothered me and this is because they don't go to LA, because they go to LA and later, after he and Henry have like their misunderstanding and all that kind of stuff, he finds the kimono in his closet and there's a note that Henry had put in the kimono. So the note is like months old. And it references a Greek myth, Pyramus and Thisbe, who were lovers who were separated and could only communicate through a crack in the wall. And the quote is basically like, I can't remember if it's Dear Pyramus or Dear Thisbe, but it's Dear one of them. It's like, I wish there weren't a wall. And that's such a big thing. And it was like, and they don't have that in there. And I was kind of hoping for that, because I was like, it's a very fun movie, but there was so much more like romance in the book. And other stuff. Oh, basically, I mean, this is related to like Nora, like them not acknowledging Nora's sexuality. But there was a greater queer community in the book, because Alex does a lot of research on his own. Because that was also a thing. I mean, he's older, so maybe they did it that way. But in the book, he has more of a bisexual awakening.
Yeah, in the movie, he already was comfortable with his sexuality. Yeah.
Yeah, because like in the book, like maybe it's just a thing of like in the book, you know, being younger and all that kind of stuff. But he was like, he was like never. He was like, oh, I don't know. It's like, do I like guys, like that kind of thing? And it was like, and then you find out he was like basically sleeping with like his best friend in high school, and he's just like, oh, that's the thing that dudes do. Like, so there's a bit where he calls up his friend, and he was like, were we like together? And his friend is like, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, but yeah, he has more of like a sexuality crisis, I guess, and he does a lot of his own research and all this kind of stuff. And there's a whole greater thing where after they're outed, like Henry is going to use, because and that's another thing, like Henry's anti-monarchy tendencies. Like he's very anti-monarchy in the book. He has this whole thing. Yeah, like he won't touch his official, like the money from the crown. He lives off the trust fund that his father gave him, because his father was an actor.
Because I was gonna ask, like, where did that money come from?
Yeah, so he lives off the trust fund that he got when his father died. So he doesn't touch any of his official like salary from the crown and all that kind of stuff. But then after they're outed and all that kind of stuff, he uses that money from the crown to open like LGBT like youth centers like all over the world. They don't have that. And just stuff like that. And there's also like, they didn't show the rally. Like you see at the end when they're at the palace.
The budget.
I know, but like you could have I feel like you could have like, dude, I work for a news organization. Call us up. We can license you some pride footage.
Yeah. Like some stock footage. Like use this.
Like but yeah, because like that's a big thing in the book. Like they freaking, because one of so Alex has that quote that it was like, history, huh? I bet we could make some, which is actually in the book is in one of his emails. So that gets leaked. So that becomes like a rallying cry in the book of like the community. Like they sell t-shirts, they put it on t-shirts and like sell the t-shirts and all this kind of stuff. And there's a big rally like in front of the White House and everything like that. And it's just, you got a much bigger sense of like community than in the book. One thing I did appreciate is that Amy, his Secret Service agent, is trans, and the actress is trans. So kudos to that. It was, I don't want to say it was bigger in the book, but it was like she's at the rally and she's wearing a trans pin. So it was a little more. But I did look that up because I was just very curious. I was like, is she supposed to be trans in the movie? Because they don't like mention it, but yeah, she is. Anyway, and I think I was like, that's all I had.
Finally.
Sorry, I had a lot of thoughts. I was very excited about this, and like I said, I'm like, because like as a generic rom-com, it's fine. You know, it's very cute. It ends happily. I liked. I mean, and obviously, I mean, you guys read my review. There was a lot of stuff that I liked about it, but like as an adaptation, it leaves a lot out because it has to. But some of that stuff was like, I really just wanted more of their emails. Like the emails were like such a big thing because that's how they communicated. They're literally in different countries.
Yeah, we never got the emails. Yeah.
There's a brief when Alex is in Texas. That's the email.
Not enough.
Yeah, exactly. Because the emails keep going, and it made it look like they only emailed each other like for that little bit when he was in Texas. He also doesn't go to Texas like that in the book, but that's because he's in school. So, but also like it's a whole thing where he does join the campaign, and they take him off the campaign as soon as they find out that he's dating Henry. Okay. Which they don't do in the movie because at that point his job in the campaign is already
done. Yeah.
So.
Okay, but yeah, watch it. It's on Prime, Amazon Video, and it's like one of the best viewed movies for Amazon Prime.
I mean, like I still liked it. I don't care. I really like queer rom-coms. Please give us more. Thank you.
Yeah, books.
I don't. Yeah, I've had the books and comics on there. I don't really have anything. I do know there are a couple that came out. He Who Drowned the World, from Shelley Parker Chan, is a sequel to She Who Became the Sun, which came out last summer, and I reviewed that.
I saw it in one of the bookstores, He Who Drowned the World, and I really thought it was like a retelling of Noah's flood.
No. So she, it's
I was like, oh,
like sort of like alternate Chinese history.
Okay.
And it's this telling of the founding of, I want to say, the Ming Dynasty. I could be wrong, but I think it's the Ming Dynasty, and the emperor that founded the Ming Dynasty. And Shelley Parker Chan's version, it's a trans man. That it was like
I read the review of the
song.
Yeah.
I have it and I haven't read it yet because
I saw it in a bookstore and I was like, okay, so that's happening. Noah's flood.
No.
A YA.
No, it's very much not
a YA retelling of Noah's flood.
No.
Who Drowned the World.
Yeah, so She Who Became the Sun is the first one, and that's a very good book. So I haven't gotten to the second one, but I hope to, because that was that's on my list. And this doesn't come out, but I've read it, so I don't know if I want to count it. But and I'm writing my review right now, but it doesn't come out until November. But the third book in the last Binding trilogy, which is A Marvelous Light, which was one of my Pride reads last year, and then A Restless Truth is the second one, and then A Power Unbound is the third one. It's really good. It's really good. I'm writing my review now. Normally I wait until closer to publish date, but I'm like, it's really good. You should all buy it.
Right about it.
But yeah, because the thing is, I was like, I actually had books, like queer books that were coming out this summer that I was gonna read, and then I
it happens.
I reread Red, White, and Royal Blue twice. And
Of course you did.
well, I wanted to read it before the movie just to like refresh. And then after I saw the movie, I was like, I'm kind of in the mood to read it again. So I did. Read it really fast. It's fine.
Comics are always queer, I guess. Pick up an X-Men comic, you'll see a queer character in it. That's it.
Yeah, it was based. I was just like, I had them because we were sort of hoping for more people to join us. So I was sort of hoping, but that's all. It was on the list anyway.
Oh yeah. Oh, also, I forgot. When it comes to movies, the lack of on-screen queer representation in the freaking Barbie movie. Like, what the fuck? Like, what? You watched Barbie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, there's only like 1 second of two queer guys just walking when Ken comes into the real world and they kind of compliment Ken.
Yeah.
That's queer representation that lasts for 1 second. And then we get to see the queer,
Earring Magic Ken.
Yeah, Earring Magic Ken and Sugar Daddy Ken for like a few seconds. And I'm like, that's not queer rep. I don't think.
Yeah, that kind of, especially because I don't know any girls growing up that their Barbies weren't gay. I'm sorry. Like, because you had 15 Barbies and maybe one Ken. Nobody had Ken. Nobody cared.
And nobody had Ken. They were probably using action figures, a Batman doll or a Superman doll anyway. Or
Nukes on the Block dolls. That was us.
Or a G.I. Joe figure or
Which
an action
funny
figure.
because the Nukes on the Block guys are gay.
Yeah. No one buyed a Ken doll. So yeah, I'm like, that's so weird. None of the Barbies were in a relationship with together. Like, not even a single one. And the entire movie also didn't show a single little boy playing with a Barbie doll. I'm like, okay then, I guess.
I mean, I really did enjoy the Barbie movie. I loved it.
It was good. It was good.
It's really good. I do hate the fact that she apologizes to Ken after he literally brainwashes everybody and takes over Barbie Land. Like,
and
I feel like that is representative of the female experience, that you're constantly apologizing for shit that's not your fault.
And he didn't say sorry once.
Nope, he does not apologize.
He just cries and then goes.
Yep.
Which is okay, I guess.
And I'm like, I don't understand why they just couldn't make their own. There was so much empty space. Just make Ken World. Like, just do, like, why do you have to take over Barbie Land? Like, I don't know.
That's the thing. He didn't want his own world. He wanted to take over what Barbie had.
Mm-hmm.
That was a thing. He's like, I'm going to take the stuff away from you. But yeah, none of the Kens were in a relationship which was weird. Like, but yeah, no queer rep in a freaking Barbie movie, which was a bit disappointing. I was like, okay, you're playing it safe, huh? You're playing it safe. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Those were the shows that came out came out this summer. The ones that we watched.
Yeah.
A lot came out, but
yeah. But we only have so much free time. So, but yeah. So in conclusion, give us more gay stuff. Please give us all the gay. I actually think that's what I said. I said yes. Please give us all the gay. Like and variety, because that's the thing that was highlighted in this. Because it was like you have like Heartstopper, which we talked about, is like, you know, very, very like they're kids and it's very like cute and blah blah blah. Like they deal with harder stuff, but you know. And then you have something like Only Friends, which is like, they got some problem. They got issues. They got issues on that show. And again, you have something like Nimona, which is a very family animated thing, and then Red, White, and Royal Blue, which is
which is not a family.
No, do not watch that with your family. No. I don't do that anymore. I was watching, like, I got my dad into Game of Thrones by accident because I was watching it at home and he sat down and started watching, and it's like the first 2 episodes, which is where like all the incest is. Like, and I'm just like, I'm uncomfortable. But anyway, please give us more. Thank you.
Recommendations.
Yes. So, all right.
And that, what could it be?
Is it a Thai drama? Yes, it is. So I actually have 2 because I was like, the one that I originally was going to rec isn't actually queer, and I felt bad not having a queer recommendation. So I'll start with the queer one, which is I am very, very good at discovering shows that were super popular that I saw all over my Tumblr dashboard and didn't watch when they were airing. And then like a year later, I'm like, I'm gonna watch this show. Everybody should watch it. Isn't it great? And like everybody watched it a year ago when it came out. But I just binged Not Me, the series. That is a Thai BL on GMM TV. It's on YouTube. It's free. So the plot is that there are identical twins, black and white. Yes, those are their names. And their connection is so strong that they can feel when the other is in pain. So when they're kids, white almost drowns, and black also almost drowns. Even though he's not in the water. And so the parents decide they parent trap this shit where they separate them. So the mom keeps black in Thailand, and the dad takes white to Russia, and they don't interact for like something like 10 years. And then white comes back to Thailand, and within like 2 days of him coming back to Thailand, black is beaten into a coma. And so like, I mean, there's a whole thing where you find out why, but it was like, so white gets a call from their childhood friend, and he's like, hey, like your brother's in a coma, like you have to come to the hospital. Because he experiences the beating, even though he's not, you know. And he goes to the hospital, and yeah, his brother's like beaten in a coma. And his friend is like, oh, like he joined a gang. I bet they had something to do with it. And they didn't, but you find that out later. But so he goes undercover, he masquerades as his brother and infiltrates the gang to find out what happened. And then it's his brother had joined oh my god, now I can't even think of the term. They're activists. They're
protesters,
like anarchist activists, kind of.
Okay.
They're fighting against the corruption in Thailand. They're specifically trying to take down like one particular businessman. And so they do stuff like burning down his summer house, like that kind of thing. And it's basically like, so white joins the group, and basically like his first night there, they're like, we're gonna go commit arson, and he's just like, what the fuck? So anyway, he's like trying to figure out like who hurt his brother, so he doesn't trust any of the other guys in the group at first, and then he ends up falling in love with one of them. But of course the guy thinks he's his brother, so like that's a whole thing. And then, you know, black wakes up at some point and everything like that. So it's very good. And that is actually that. I'm glad I watched this one before this webcast, because this is actually a very good, because there's a lot of social commentary in this show, because the whole thing is they're trying to fight corruption in Thailand. And there's actually an entire once white joins the group, he starts giving them like a social media presence, because the stuff that they were doing wasn't really getting attention. It was just making them look like vandals, because, you know, they're like, we're just burning down a house, like blah, blah, like if you don't know why they're burning down the house,
you need that PR. Yeah.
And so white starts sending what they're doing to like non-mainstream news sources, because the mainstream news in Thailand isn't covering stuff. So like, so he sends it to that, and they're actually like, it gains a following. And there's an episode where there's like about halfway through the series, people start protesting, and the protests just keep getting bigger and bigger. And that's actually a key point in how it ends. I won't spoil it, but like the protests are important for that. But there's an episode where they go, and one of their friends outside the group is actually trans, and she is running a group. She's like, they go to the protest, and she sets up a booth for marriage equality in Thailand, and they have a big like pride rally and all that kind of stuff. And there's just a scene where they're like holding up like a giant pride flag, and everybody's just like dancing under it. And I'm like, this is great. I love it. And I remember seeing this scene on Tumblr when they came out originally and not watching, because that's how I roll. All of my recommendations are shows that like came out 2 years ago and were like popular. And I'm like, hey, did you hear about this show? Because I didn't. Like, so that's my first one. And then the second one is also a Thai drama. And I'm sorry, this one is actually like kind of aggressively heterosexual, but it's ridiculous and I love it. And I'm watching it for purely shallow reasons. because one of the actors, Nanan Korpat, is the lead, one of the leads in Bad Buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And I freaking love Bad Buddy. And I'm kind of like slowly trying to work through his shows that he's in. And he's in this one and he plays twins. So I'm like, I have to watch this. He plays twins. And what do I say? Oh yeah, it has the most misleading trailer of all time because the show is called The Jungle. You think it's about like a secret bar, like it's like the location isn't known, but everybody that needs to find it can find it very easily as the plot dictates. There's a password to get in and it changes daily and you play it on the piano. Oh. So apparently a lot of people in Thailand know how to play the piano and can read sheet music because otherwise you can't get into the bar. And it's basically like, forgive my language, but it's supposed to be like a dark, like I was expecting like a dark thriller about like heartless like fuckboys because their whole thing is like they don't do relationships, you know, they're like we don't commit, like all that kind of thing. Apparently it's actually like a pledge that the group made to each other that it was like we're not gonna get girlfriends, we're just gonna, you know, so you would think it'd be a lot more queer, but but basically it was like the first like 6 episodes is basically like they every other one is a focus on like one of the members because there are 6 guys. They're called the Jungle. They all have animal nicknames. And they all wear jewelry related to their animal.
That makes no sense.
So you have one of the characters is Viper, so he has an ear cuff that's a snake. Like stuff like that. And anyway, so each episode is like one of the guys and then his love interest. And basically you have the first 3 guys and within like 5 minutes of meeting a woman who's marginally unimpressed with their bullshit, they're like, please marry me. Like, let's get so, but it's completely, it's just so ridiculous. And there's a lot of stuff that I have to ignore because otherwise it just doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. But as I said, shallow reasons, really don't care. Nanan is great. That's all that's important to me. That's currently airing. There's 2 episodes a week. There's 4 episodes left. And I'm really waiting. There's a scene in the trailer where like the bar burns down and I'm just really waiting for that. I'm like, please burn down this bar.
Or it all to burn down, yeah.
But oh well, I do want to say that there's actually a theory that because Nanan plays twins, but the twins don't actually share a scene until episode 6. So I actually, even knowing that he was playing 2 characters, I'm watching this being like, is he multiple personalities?
Right. Yeah.
And apparently one of my friends told me that they think he actually originally the character was supposed to be like a split personality. And then they changed it eventually because a lot of the early imagery for the show, like for his character, and even because each of the guys has a song that is featured in like their romantic scenes, and all that kind of stuff. And the video for his is mirrors. There's a lot of mirrors. And that, like, even in the original trailer, not the one that came out like right before the show debuted, but like last year when the like teaser like trailer came out, there was a lot of mirror imagery. So people thought it was supposed to be like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing. But no, he's twins.
Reflection show
he's twins.
But
it's yeah. So that's a show that it's like, don't watch that to take it seriously. Just watch it because it's ridiculous, and I am really enjoying it. There's one of the female characters that they introduced later is fantastic. I love her. She needs to like take over the bar after it burns down because it's great. Anyway.
Yeah, Angie had a note about Barbie possibly being asexual, which I guess you can kind of read it like that.
Well, they don't have genitalia, so I guess by definition, yes, because they can't have sex.
Well, they can do other stuff.
True.
Right? So, yeah, maybe you can kind of read it like that. But yeah.
I do understand, like, I can see how there was a reading of that scene, because there's the whole, like, Ken's like, I could stay over, and Barbie's like, why? And he's like, I don't know. Because they don't know. Like,
he leans in for a kiss. So Ken knows. These Barbies knows, because they're going to be bumping Barbie dolls.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I'm like, kids know.
So they know.
They might not know the specifics, but they know the
Yeah,
basics.
Barbie is just not interested. Like, there's a pregnant midge walking around.
That's true.
And I'm like, how does that work? Does the baby come out and then goes back in?
I don't know. Is she just like always pregnant? That has to
Right?
suck.
It makes no sense. And I'm like, she's supposed to be Alan's wife, and they don't even share a scene together.
I mean, she was Alan's wife, like when the toys came out and everything,
But still. Also, okay, so my recommendations would be queer shows that are coming out this fall. So we talked about the summer shows. Now it's time for the fall shows. So Surreal Estate is coming back for season number 2, as well as Chucky season number 3. And both of these shows will be debuting on Sci-Fi on October 4th. So first Surreal Estate, and then Chucky, which is like a good hour of queer horror content. And I'm like, okay, it's gonna delay my reaction videos and reviews, but what can you do?
and then Our Flag Means Death is the next.
Yeah,
week.
that's okay. It's a week of queer of your fall, the fall of queer, the queer fall.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, well, I don't want to say fall of queer. That just doesn't
Queer
sound
fall.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. Holla queer because it's in October, but
Yeah, that's coming out. So Surreal Estate, it's a queer show. Chucky is a very, very queer show. It's always the Chucky IP has always been queer. So that's coming out October. And again in October, Gilded Age season number 2 is coming out, which is basically like the American Downton Abbey. And it's fun. It's got camp. It's got sassy old women and queer characters in it. And Wheel of Time season number 2. 3 episodes are already out, and Wheel of Time is queer as heck too, as far as the lead characters are concerned. And yeah, fall.
okay, awesome.
Watching shows.
So that's kind of related to the our question, which I actually thought of a question this time because we normally don't think of one. But it was like, what's something either in the pipeline that you're excited for, or something that hasn't yet been greenlit that you hope does?
Mhm.
So mine is actually, because we already mentioned the stuff coming out, like Our Flag Means Death and everything. There's actually, they're tie, but there are, there's a,
Does it have twins?
I don't think so.
Twins?
Oh my God, yeah, both shows had twins. That was not intentional. I didn't mean to do that. No, so it's a GL drama, a girls' love drama that's coming out.
That's new.
There are less of those than the BL dramas, but this one is okay. So I don't actually know. It's 23.5, but I don't know if it's like 23.5 or 23 and a half. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but it's 23.5. So the two leads are Milk and Love. They're like actor names. They were the side pairing in Bad Buddy.
Oh, okay, it's a spin-off.
Well, no, they're different characters, but the actresses were the side pairing.
Okay. Yeah.
Because in Thailand, what they do is they have a lot of couples and they do repeat shows together. And so, like, they were a couple in Bad Buddy. They were a couple in Vice Versa, which is another BL.
Hollywood should do that more too. A lot of other countries do that.
Well, because it's like some people have done that. Because I know, like, Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks had like 3 movies.
Right?
Together.
It used to be a thing. It used to be a thing.
But that's actually huge in Thailand. Like, not only do they like do multiple shows together, because like the show. Well, I just posted the review for Moonlight Chicken, because the 2 leads in that were also the 2 leads in Tale of a Thousand Stars, which I wrecked earlier this year, and they're in another 2 shows together.
Yeah, do that. You should do more of that. Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling are gonna do that again for Ocean's 11, and I'm like, that's not gonna work. But do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not gonna work. They're not like an it couple. It's just it just worked for the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
And also
because Ryan really leaned into the Ken role.
Right. They just work for the Barbie movie, but putting them together in a movie, different characters, no, I don't see that working. Also, like, again, Hollywood should do more of that. Like, the fact that no one has decided to cast Tyler Hoechlin and Dylan O'Brien in a project together, even as friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, are you guys nuts? Like, are you?
I do really wish that it was a thing, because like that's what I'm doing. So on OnlyFriends, that's the thing. So like 2 of the pairings, because you have Top and Mew, First and Book are the actors. This is their like third show together, where they're like a romantic couple, and then Sand and Ray, who are those are my guys. They're actors. First, I can't pronounce his name. Kaupang, I think. This is like their third or fourth show together, where they're playing love interests. So, because it's like, if you have the good chemistry, capitalize on it. Like, but I also think a thing like in Thailand, like these are all produced by the same channel.
But still,
that's true. Like, you know, you could have something like I don't.
Still, as you said, the Meg Ryan thing. It used to be a thing in Hollywood. It used to.
I think because Hollywood. I mean, Hollywood used to do the studio system where you were like specifically like at one studio. Whereas opposed to now you can go wherever. But it was like, that was a thing in like older Hollywood, that it was like you would have people and they would be in the same kind of like, I don't know why they don't do that. I really think that they should. Like there should be a streaming service that gets on that. I mean, come on.
Like cast Tyler Hoechlin and Dylan O'Brien together. Do it.
The CW sort of did it, because if you were on one CW show, you were on all of them.
Yeah, cast them together for sake. Yeah, or maybe they don't want to work together. That's an entire thing. We're not getting. Maybe they're like.
I mean, they probably would.
I don't think so. I think something happened. I think they broke up and stuff, and they just like
that. Yeah, that's a thing. Because I'm newer to the Thai BL, like the thing. But the two guys that played the leads in Bad Buddy, like allegedly had a falling out, and so.
Yeah, I think that's.
But also, neither of them wanted to do BLs anymore, which is fair. Because in Thailand, I think that's sort of seen as like a stepping stone to like launch a bigger career. Is that you do the BLs first. So they don't want to do them anymore, which is fair. Whatever. Upsetting because like Bad Buddy is just amazing. Like, sorry. I have you heard about Bad Buddy? I don't think I can wreck that enough.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that's it.
Fall did you have anything?
I talked about it.
That's
Sarito, Jackie, Gilded Age. Like these are the 4 shows that I'll be covering for the Geekiary as well. So yeah. And also RuPaul's Drag Race. Like that's not ending. That's not ending. It's like a new episode every week. I'm like, let me breathe, Ru. Let me rest.
Okay, yet another almost 2-hour webcast because we really know how to talk. Also, I am sorry if I just ranted. I was like, I don't really have anybody that I can talk to this stuff about in real life, so it gotta come out somewhere, and it comes out when I talk to Fareed. So, because I know he watches the same stuff. And thank you for listening to my rants about Thai dramas, because yes, that doesn't have anywhere else to go. So I sometimes word vomit on my one coworker. She is very, very understanding, because I literally, like when I started watching The Jungle, I was literally on the phone with her for like 45 minutes being like, okay, and then? She's like, you don't know, she doesn't know who any of these people are. Anyway.
This Barbie is a good listener.
She's a saint. She needs to get paid more just for listening to me talk about Thai BL dramas. Okay. So I'm Jamie, along with Fareed and Angie way back at the beginning. Thank you again for joining us for Feelings with the Geekiary. Remember that we are a free webcast run off of donations from viewers like you. Thank you for contributing and helping our host site, the Geekiary. We'll see you the next time we do one of these, which we don't know when that's going to be, but we'll think of something.
Maybe after fall. Who knows? Winter days. The snowflakes.
We have to do that now. That is perfect. Write that down. Okay.